What is a simple sentence? How is a compound sentence different from a complex sentence? If you want to know the answers to these questions, watch this video. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Friends, today we are going to learn about simple, compound and complex sentences. Let's begin with the basics. We won the match. Here, won is the finite verb. So the sentence contains only one finite verb. Such a sentence which contains only one finite verb is called as a simple sentence. Here, we is the subject. The remaining part of the sentence, won the match, is the predicate. So friends, in this particular sentence, there is only one subject, we, and one predicate, that is won the match. Such a sentence which contains only one subject and one predicate is called as a simple sentence. So, a simple sentence is a sentence which can be defined as one which has only one subject and one predicate, or it can also be defined as a sentence which contains only one finite verb. So, a simple sentence can be defined in two different ways. Now see this example. The moon rose and everything looked bright. Here, the moon rose is one clause. Everything looked bright is another clause. The moon rose. Here in this clause, the moon is the subject, rose is the predicate. Everything looked bright. Here everything is the subject, looked bright is the predicate. So both are clauses. Now, both these clauses are independent of each other. They make complete sense on their own. They don't require the other. Like for example, just see, the moon rose. Does it make sense on its own? Yes, it does. It is an independent clause. Similarly, everything looked bright. Does it make sense on its own? Yes, it does. So it is also an independent clause. So therefore, friends, both these clauses are independent clauses. They make complete sense on their own. They don't require the other. They are of the same order, that is of equal rank, equal order, and therefore both these clauses are called as coordinate clauses. So, a sentence which contains two or more coordinate clauses is called as a compound sentence. So, a compound sentence is defined as a sentence which consists of two or more coordinate clauses. Next example, the student came when the class began. Now here, the student came is one clause. The student is the subject, came is the predicate. The remaining part is another clause. Now friends, look at this clause. The student came. Does it make sense on its own? Yes. So this clause makes sense on its own. This clause is what is called as an independent clause. Now look at the other part. When the class began. This is also a clause. Okay, the class is the subject and began is the predicate. But does this clause make sense on its own? No, it does not. When the class began, the information is not complete. Therefore, this clause does not make sense on its own. It depends on the first clause, this clause, to make sense. And therefore, this clause is what is called as the subordinate clause. Why subordinate? Because it is depending on this clause to make complete sense on its own. So this clause, the clause which makes sense on its own, is called as the main clause. So friends, such a sentence which consists of one main clause and a subordinate clause is called as a complex sentence. So let's define a complex sentence. A complex sentence is a sentence which consists of one main clause and one or more subordinate clause. Now let's do an activity in order to understand this concept properly. State whether the following sentences are simple, compound or complex. So friends, we have to identify the sentence. The students work hard. Here in this sentence, there is one finite verb, work. So therefore, by definition, this is a simple sentence. Next, his courage won him honor. Here, one is the verb and it is a finite verb. So therefore, the sentence contains only one finite verb. So this sentence is a simple sentence. He tried hard, but he did not succeed. He tried hard. This is one clause. It's an independent clause. He did not succeed. This is another clause. This is also independent of the first. Both make sense on their own. They do not depend on each other. So therefore, both are coordinating clauses. So therefore, this is a compound sentence. I called him and he replied. I called him is one clause, independent clause. He replied, another independent clause. So both the clauses are independent. So therefore, this is a compound sentence. She must work hard or she will miss the goal. She must work hard is one independent clause. She will miss the goal is another independent clause. Both the clauses are independent of each other. They don't depend on each other. So therefore, this is a compound sentence. Next, I went because I was invited. I went, one independent clause, because I was invited. This does not make sense on its own. So therefore, this is a subordinate clause. So one main clause and one subordinate clause. So therefore, this is a complex sentence. Next, God made the world so that we may live happily. God made the world, one independent clause, independent statement, so that we may live happily. Does it make sense on its own? No. It is depending on this one to make complete sense. So this is a subordinate clause. Therefore, this sentence contains one main clause and one subordinate clause. So therefore, this is a complex sentence. Next, students should pay attention when the teacher teaches. Students should pay attention, main clause or independent clause, when the teacher teaches. Does it make sense on its own? No, it does not. Okay, so therefore this is a subordinate clause, this is a main clause, and therefore this sentence is a complex sentence. So friends, this was the video on simple compound complex sentence. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you have liked it. Do like, share and subscribe. Bye.